My story begins during my years of service in the Mexican Army, 6 years into my service. The first one I have to say is perhaps the least serious and the one that is most morally justified. For the first story, it's about how I ended up sending people from my own unit to meet St. Peter. I did this to protect a recent graduate from having something done to her. Honestly, at this point in these days, there's no need to explain what happens to women inside the Mexican Army, especially to those who have just arrived, and even less need to say that several guys wanted to do something to her. For this story, I won't mention any names, nicknames, or anything like that. I'll just use numbers, because even today, many years after that incident, it still has the ability to affect me. It all started when there was a girl. She was 19 years old and had just finished basic training. At that time, I held the legendary rank of lieutenant. For those who don't know, it's the rank right after second lieutenant. How I got there, I have no idea either. I just made it to that rank by pure damn luck. That's as far as I got. I didn't reach any higher rank. Clearly and obviously, once I had the rank, I wasn't harassed as much, and I could also stand up for myself. To those who mistreated the women in the unit, in the same way they treated me when I first arrived. Now, going back to the 19-year-old girl, she was pretty, of average height. I remember she was about 1.73 meters tall. She reached up to my chest. She was shorter and more laid back. Maybe that's why, from the moment I saw her, she reminded me a lot of myself. She left her life behind. She left her boyfriend, all of this to try to help her. She left her mother and her grandparents who were already nearing the end because of their age. That's what hit me. Because unlike me, she really had goodness in her. She had her reasons to be there. And to tell the truth, it's because I really saw my old self in her. Maybe that's why I grew fond of her. It wasn't long before she ended up in her own police unit, because she hadn't been assigned to me. She was in one where some sergeants and a second lieutenant were in charge, and I can personally confirm they were from there. The female staff didn't do anything to them, because to top it off, the girls went along with it and were the troublemakers of the group. And clearly I wasn't going to get in trouble for them. It wasn't until they saw my girl, sweet, innocent, and unable to defend herself. It had slipped my mind, but she was thin, and like I said, calm and kind. She didn't know anything about harassment, and unlike me, who had been dealing with it since I arrived. From a distance, about 200 meters away, I could see how the sergeants and second lieutenant looked at her. I don't need to say more about it. She was just arriving. I didn't do anything because I thought that, like most of her platoon, she'd be one of those who pretended to be scared and shy at first, but in the end would end up being part of the group that played the classic, the one who falls behind pays. What weighs on me is that I thought she'd be like that and did nothing to defend her. She lasted about a month and a half, then suddenly started avoiding me and wouldn't look at me. She didn't interact with her platoon mates, and after that, something began to bother me. Whenever her sergeants or the second lieutenant walked by, I could immediately recognize the look in her eyes, full of fear and desperation for them to leave her alone. I simply let it go, and I regret it because what happened to her a week later was my fault, due to my negligence for not approaching her and taking care of her like I promised when she arrived. The last week I saw her was much the same, except something happened on the final day. She already had a bruise on her neck, and she wasn't walking straight like she used to, nor did she have any color. She was just a bit pale, and her face had no expression. That's when I finally decided to approach her, but she stayed silent even though I was with her for a few minutes. Nothing. She was just talking to the wall. She didn't do or say anything, until she said she wanted to go submit her discharge papers and looked at me. I noticed that her eyes were glassy and colorless. There was no affection or empathy. There was nothing in her, not even a little, and she turned to look at her superiors. That's when she collapsed in my arms. She fainted, and I caught her. The sergeants and the second lieutenant quickly looked at her, and their looks told me everything. They already knew what it felt like to be inside her, even though it was against her will and herself. I went to take her to the infirmary along with another soldier, but carrying her was literally, and I swear to you on my sacred mother, who passed away when I was 6 years old, and left me alone with my father and my grandfather. It was like remembering one of the first confrontations I had, remembering the weight of my comrades' gear, and remembering that I had to carry one of the black bags. From them came one of the hardest parts, the result from the infirmary. While I was there, they told me it was a fainting due to low blood sugar, maybe because of intense emotions. And the last thing was telling me what I already knew.
Injury to her vaginal canal and bruising near her groin.
I know I shouldn't say this or even talk about it, but I will, because what weighs on me is that I could have prevented this one, and I didn't do anything for her. That night, she was in the infirmary until the next day. Because of her injuries, they took her to the regional military hospital to treat her there, because the base infirmary didn't have what was needed to take care of her. They took her, and she was in the hospital for a month until she was discharged and came back. She was only there for a few hours, and then she deserted. She left the service. I just saw her leave with nothing. At that time, I was in what is now the Puebla military zone, where this happened while I was working as a recruiter. At that moment that day, I was attending to a kid, one of those typical ones who think they have nothing to do and don't want to study anymore, so they want to go work with weapons in the military. But poor guys, if only they knew that just like outside here, they're also going to study. I was attending to him until she passed near the esplanade. She didn't look at me, didn't say anything. I could simply see her tears and her suffering. There was nothing in the investigation. There was no complaint against the sergeants. There was no complaint against the second lieutenant. She simply let them go and did nothing to them. That day, I simply left feeling different. I hadn't felt that sensation in a long time until that day. I simply got close to the esplanade, went to the cashier, bought a cigarette by hand with a loose bill I had, and I didn't feel pain. I didn't complain. I didn't do anything. I didn't even react. That's when the thoughts came back. I was there for almost a minute. I only came back to myself because the cashier and another guy who was there snapped me out of the trance. It only took a minute to decide that I would do it. I was going to take all three of them out no matter what. The first one was First Sergeant. I spent almost 2 months watching him. I turned down my leave. They gave me a day off for a month, but I didn't go out. I stayed in the barracks. In the third month, I got an opportunity. I caught him alone. He had gone to the bathroom and no one was around, not even his lovers, the second sergeant and the second lieutenant, to watch over him. And right there, I took him down. Before going in, I found a nice rock outside that they had put there to hold a door open so it wouldn't close. I removed it, picked it up, and saw him using the toilet. I stood by, waited since he didn't notice me, then caught him coming out and hit him. He fell to the floor, the fat from being a bit overweight, and he just dropped dead right there. As time went by, the next one was the second lieutenant. That was a treat because I got to go on an operation with him. There was an area where there was a drop and it was hidden. He went to pee there, and while the troops and the others were having a snack, I slipped away and made my way through the woods and some of those trees with big trunks that have a bunch of tall, dry bushes underneath. I got close to a certain point and he was peeing way too much. I'd say dangerously close to the edge of the drop down to the field below. It was probably about 20 meters rolling down. And, well, your imagination can do the rest. I just helped him out, as they say, and he went in a certain direction. Gravity did the rest, like Sonic. The thing that keeps me from saying much is the second sergeant. I never got the chance to take that dog down because he transferred to another unit. He just got away. I was never able to find out about him again until a few months ago. It was sometime this year that I finally learned what happened to him. Now he's a first captain, and above all, he's involved with some heavy hitters. You know which heavy hitters I mean, those not from the government. All I know is that maybe what has given me some satisfaction up to now is that he's now an old man of 58, and he's suffering from bone cancer and has cirrhosis. Basically, the old man by himself without me doing anything. I'll enjoy watching how he'll go and join his lovers in the end. By the way, if you ever wonder why I decided to tell this story, well, maybe it's to try to get rid of that burden, and secondly, to honor the memory of the girl. A few months ago, I was looking into how she was doing, but unfortunately, she's no longer with us. She lived a normal life and managed to move on for several years after that, or at least she did until, as I said, I found out she simply decided to end her own life. From what I understand, it was because she had a daughter and she told her what happened to her in an attempt to make her daughter aware. But nothing is worse than telling a little girl of about 7 years old that, because obviously she's going to tell someone right away. So that's what happened. She told her dad, and since she never told him that at the beginning, he left her and took the daughter, saying it was a lie and that she was probably messing around. Her parents found out too, and that's how the news spread. Everyone abandoned her. The world abandoned her, and I was busy with other things at that time. And that's what makes it hard for me to tell this, that I could have spared her all that if I had done something from the beginning. When I saw that people started eyeing her and targeting her and I did nothing, now she's maybe in a better place. I hope so. And that's what makes it hard for me to tell this, that I could have avoided all of that if I had done something from the beginning. When I saw how they started eyeing her and targeting her, but I did nothing. And believe me, you learn to live with a lot of things in there, with fear, with memories, with the dead, with what you see and with what you do. But there are things that just don't go away. And she never left my mind because I don't remember the recruit. I remember the 19-year-old girl who still had dreams, who wanted to help her mom and her grandparents, and who came believing she was joining to serve her country. And honestly, I hope she's in a better place now. Sometimes I wish I could believe she finally found the peace denied to her here. I'm sharing this about her after so many years, not to justify myself or seek sympathy. I'm sharing this because things happen in some places that people stay silent about until it's too late. And also because if someone hears this and decides to speak up, defend themselves, or help someone before it's too late, then maybe carrying all of this won't have been completely in vain.